treatment from our variety of medical partners. We also help to educate the community by hosting a series of seminars and workshops, such as the one that you are here today. As well, our annual fundraising gala, Stimulus. Essence of Mind outreach program, we're currently looking to expand and we're seeking board members or committee members. So if you have a passion for mental health, do see us after the event to get more details. So today we approach a very delicate topic, trauma. But we will look at it in our community, especially in the Black community, in support of Black History Month. When I hear the word trauma, I think of brokenness, shattered, as if one has lost a precious piece of themselves. A person must have experienced or witnessed an event or events that involved actual or threatened death or serious injury, or a threat to the physical integrity of self or others, and which involved fear, helplessness, or horror. My dictionary defines trauma as deeply distressing or disturbing experience. Defined like that, the events which can be considered traumatic or wide-ranging indeed, from what might be considered the stuff of ordinary life, such as a divorce, illness, accidents, and bereavements, to extreme experiences of war, torture, and rape. Not surprisingly, in a culture in which mental illness is stigmatized, the issue of whether trauma is caused by an event or by personal vulnerability is one which is charged with emotion. As the public understanding seems closer to the original definition of trauma, the current definition is fraught with problems, which causes one to ask, should we go back to something closer to the original idea that a trauma was an experience that when encountered would psychologically overwhelm all who encountered it? Or should we move in the direction of thinking that all life events have the potential to be perceived as traumatic? Some people have difficulties moving on with their lives. Unfortunately, psychologists can help these individuals find constructive ways of managing their emotions. Today, we hope to shine a light on the different forms of trauma that has suppressed our community and discuss positive workable methods to help us move forward to obtain healing and a sense of normalcy. We are very fortunate to be joined today by 3 lived experience panel members, very brave, strong, and courageous individuals who will share with us their personal experience with trauma and how they were able to reclaim back their power. We ask that you show respect to them and understand that recalling their experiences may be hard. With that being said, we encourage anyone who would like some quiet time, in case today's discussion gets a bit hard and overwhelmed, to excuse yourself from the room. We have a room down the hall for people who would like some quiet time. We also are joined today by a few medical experts in the field of psychology and social work. Very honored to have these individuals who will help to educate us and answer any questions we may have. We will introduce them a little later for our panel discussion. It is our hope that today's discussion will set the standards for change in our community as well our personal lives. We hope to make the conversations easier at the dinner table as we discuss mental illness and trauma. With your help and support from today's event, Essence of Mind can continue to bring speakers to seminars such as this to assist us with our mission. We encourage you all to participate and let your voices be heard today. Again, we have a fundraiser going on, so we are selling our raffle tickets, 1 for $5 and 3 for $10. At this time, I would invite you all to stand. We will be singing our national anthem, followed by Lift Every Voice. Please stand and welcome Trish and Jean, who will lead us. Thank you. Thank you, Sonia and Trish and Jean. Okay, so we're just gonna check in on the presentation. Are we okay, ladies?
Introducing our panel. Sorry.
Can you guys hear him without the mic, or
Yes.
it's just a bad feedback? I don't know if
Okay.
you guys heard that.
If there's anyone here that wouldn't like to be photographed, let us know. It was Marcus Garvey that says, a people without knowledge of its past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. And that's why we're here today, to support Black History Month and to discuss some of the things that ails us on regarding mental and our spiritual issues. My first panelist that I'd like to introduce you to is Melania Daniel. Melania Daniel is a writer, award-winning poet, and a multimedia journalist. She's trained in journalism at the University of Western Ontario and has previously written articles on the subject of bullying. She currently conducts research for a project on workplace bullying, which she has experience in 2 workplaces within Canada. She's a former banker and economics instructor and has worked in Toronto as a web editor. Thank you, Melania. Please join us on stage. Philip Johnson came to Canada in July of 1967. He attended college and graduated with 2 diplomas. Later on, he started working with the City of Toronto in 2001. He became a victim of racism and trauma with an attempt on his life in the fall of 2008. Today, Philip shares his story in hopes of helping to change the justice system and workplace policies. Thanks, Philip, for your attendance. Ms. Diane Jerry is a founder of Love in New Concept of Self-Love Inc., holistic lifestyle consultant, and a Queens Rising Together movement. She's a self-love goddess, beauty maven, holistic wellness expert, and a mother of 5 children. Through her company, Love Inc., she is on a mission to help women worldwide love themselves more and love life. Diana will speak to abuse as well as loss and grievances of love. Please welcome Diana. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to now introduce our medical experts panel members who will help to educate and shine some light regarding how we are impacted medically. Mr. Keith Cunningham is a registered psychotherapist and holds a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling from Walden University. Keith is currently working as a youth worker and an individual and family therapist for at East Metro Youth Services, where he supports children and youth ages 12 to 21 years old, along with their families, to develop new and helpful skills to support their desired goals, including cognitive and behavioral changes. Keith Cunningham is a lover of people. Keith believes everyone can meaningfully contribute to the furtherance of their resolution of an issue, if even given the chance. Keith also believes everyone is intuitively an agent of change, even though some may need a little more training than others to harness those instinctive skills. Welcome, Keith. Miss Deanne Edwards. passion is to help children and adolescents succeed in life. Given that children spend the majority of their lives at school and a good education provides the foundation for success, it is important to address concerns that arise along the way. She has more than 10 years experience working in elementary and secondary schools where she sees children and adolescents with a broad range of issues such as intellectual disability, learning disability, giftedness, and ADHD. Welcome, Deanne. Last but not least, I will introduce Ms. Sharon Barrett. Ms. Barrett is a clinical social worker and a therapist. She is the founder and owner of Feed Blue Counseling and Mental Wellness Services. Sharon is a registered social worker at the Ontario College of Social Workers and Social Services, and a member of the Ontario Association of Social Workers. She holds a Master of Social Work degree from the University of Toronto, specializing in mental health, and an experienced therapist and a mental health professional. Sharon works with adults and older youth, employing culturally sensitive counseling to address issues related to mental health, stress management, and relationships and life transitions, among others, in both Toronto and Scarborough. Please join us in welcoming Sharon back. Ladies and gentlemen, please give our panel another hand. Will anyone like to ask the first questions to the panel? Depends on the voice.
No, I just want to know, I have been through a lot in my life, and it's the first time in 4 years that I've learned how to. It's the first time in 4 years that I've learned how to not make my trauma of my past get a hold of me, because many times I think about it and it just gives me bad memories. For instance, when I was younger, didn't know a lot of things. I used to live in Regent Park, where back in the in the 70s and 80s, drugs was rampant in Regent Park. My mom got hooked on the drugs, the crack and the cocaine. I'm coming home from school one day. I walk in my house, the doors kicked down. All I heard was freeze. A police officer pointed a gun at my head. Now life was like this. And to this day, I still remember everything. And then my mom was missing 12 years of my life because she was on the streets and on the drugs, and all this thing just started to fall down in my head. And I'm 51 now and I'll be 52 this year. And it's just now I've learned how to harness all that and just think about the good things that my mom had taught me to get out of it. Now, how do I put all these things together to continue to do what I need to do to not let it bother me and get back into where the trauma destroyed me? Because I went to jail twice for all that stuff that happened to me because I was angry and I was doing stuff that I wasn't supposed to do. So how do I continue to harness all that I've learned to continue on that straight path? Like, what do I use? Because I know they give you, they try to medicate you with all these other things to keep you calm and stuff like that. But that usually doesn't work, because all that does is make you dependable on these pills and on these drugs, and it just makes it worse, right? And I never take anything. I try to do it naturally, so how do I continue to do something to stay on that path? What do I do?
You're actually three people, Mike.
I'm not sure if there's any clear response to your question. I don't know you very well, and I think that would involve, I think, what we call wraparound support services. And when we think about wraparound support services, it means our relationship with different systems. And when I say systems, I talk, a system can be our family, a system can be our friends, a system can be our colleagues, a system can be our buddies. So when we talk about a wraparound support system, wraparound support services, it's about connecting yourself to different services. We talk about family, we talk about friends, we talk about colleagues, as well as we talk about the professionals. And there are some things that our friends, our family members can support us with and working through, and there are other things that may need a more structured, more professional support with. So that may be around the cognitive, we talk about, and I think the piece that our two esteemed presenters did earlier on was that they talk about the cognitive restructuring. So it's about the rethinking of what our experience has been. And it talks about the post-traumatic growth as well. How do you reframe those experiences and not just focus on the negative, but also to talk about the things that you have learned out of those, as a result of those experiences. So even just reframing that can help you to start seeing and having a different experience as to what you've gone through. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, thank you. And the reason why I asked that question too was, I'm okay now, but it's just to help others, right? When all that stuff happened, I wasn't a Christian, I wasn't baptized or anything, but you know, this year March will make 5 years that I've been baptized, and you know, it makes a whole lot of difference because you're constantly with the church. You constantly have a confidant in the church that you talk to all the time, right? So me asking that question is to see how I can help others, you know, to explain to them where I'm coming from, what they need to do, instead of being medicated on stuff that won't help you.
So you mentioned that you're helping others. That in itself is a part of healing. In fact, it's one of the best ways that you can heal. And a lot of us helpers kind of needed healing ourselves while we kind of got into the field. So you're doing, one of the things that you're doing right now is helping, and in fact, at the same time, you're healing.
I have a question I think might be related to your question. I was interested in knowing the specific therapeutic approaches that you use in your counseling practices with Black people specifically. I know, Sharon, you had a slide there about cognitive behavioral therapy that we skipped. So I was wondering if you could speak about your experiences with using that approach in your therapy, and as well if there's any other types of approaches that you use that you found effective for the rest of the panel as well.
Okay, so let me just say overall, the relationship that a therapist has with the client is the most important indicator of success. So the relationship that you have, regardless of the therapeutic modality, is the most important indicator. If you have a great relationship with your therapist, and you think that they identify with you and you identify with them, and you feel comfortable and can open up to them, like this lady was talking about spiritual issues, if she has a therapist that is negating everything that she's saying, or God forbid laughing, or you know, having these interpretations that's very counter to her own experiences and interpretations of it, it's not going to be a very good fit. So the very most important thing in successfully working with someone is to have a good relationship. That said, there's a lot of different therapeutic modalities. CBT was one I used, just saying that, you know, exemplifying cognitive restructuring. But there's a lot of different techniques that can be used, and really, you know, like we've been trained in so many modalities. Like, I don't know, how many are there? Hundreds? Hundreds, you know? So it isn't really the modality itself, it is the relationship. Yeah. I don't know if anyone wants to add to that.
Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to add to that, or if not, we'll just move on. Lanny or Keith, could one of you at this juncture speak to your lived experience? Introduce yourself.
You're talking about
Lived experience.
I'm not one of the
Melania.
Okay, my name is Melania, and of course of late that has become a cause of all kinds of attention, welcome, non-welcome, positive, negative. But this is not what has traumatized me in the past. What I want to speak to is the issue of workplace bullying, which I think, for many who experience it, it still does not have a name, and it is an unrecognized, under-discussed, under-reported issue that some psychologists who study it are calling it the silent epidemic in the workplace. I think a lot of people who are black, who look like me, will experience or have experienced, because we are working as a so-called minority in a majority white society, and we know all those old animosities that we have been speaking about. So I think for many people who are in the workplace, workplace bullying is the new form of racism. It's the more subtle, more underhanded, because you now have overt discrimination cannot really be practiced. Somebody would have to be really crazy to look into your face, and they still do, to tell you, I'm doing this because you are black. So there will be all kinds of rationalizations and all kinds of excuses why it's happening. The reason why it's here as an issue is that at the end of the day, it's equally traumatic. Bullying, I don't think our societies in general have recognized the issue, the seriousness, the severity of what it is. But I think it should rise up in terms of a public health and possibilities for public danger. Every time we have a school shootout in the United States, which thank God has not reached Canada on the same scale, or every time we have a workplace shootout, one of the things I find that slips down in the story is that this person alleged they were being bullied for a long time. So we hear about the losers, the loners, the what have you. But what makes somebody a loner, not enough is invested in understanding the aspect of it. The other thing that I think trips us, or trips the society that we belong to, is the word bullying. For many of us, when we use that word bullying, it tends to bring up the schoolyard, you know, kids being mean to each other, and this is kids and what they do. But the behaviors do not always or actually stop here. And it goes into workplaces, and there is a lot of bullying of adults happening. And one of the effects, based on my research, of bullying on adults is that it has two mainstreams. People either become suicidal or they become homicidal. Like I said, we're not yet into the phase where people go shooting up the workplaces, but I am from the Caribbean in St. Lucia, and I recall a time when we were so innocent, and the kind of street shootout violence that happened in Jamaica, we used to pride ourselves on this could never happen here, until it starts to creep its way down and you realize here, it's with us. So I had this experience, and it's kind of sort of strange coincidence that I'm sitting next to somebody who is speaking of harassment in the workplace. Now there is a subtle difference, but basically, you know, the behaviors are the same. The definition of bullying is that it's not a single incident. It's, although there are instances where one single incident can be so traumatic that it triggers the same sort of spectrum of responses or reactions in you. It's behavior that is repeated over a period, again and again and again, either by one individual or a group towards the person. The target, the victim, the person somebody has decided they do not like. This idea of bullying, I think as part of our education, is that we should take it out of our minds that this is something that happens in schools only, It happens everywhere. It is done, can be done by anybody to just about anybody. Secondly, I think you know the difference between mild teasing by a friend and sustained targeted behavior that is intended to diminish you, to alienate you, to isolate you, to make you feel like to make you feel less than. There's also the perception, maybe from this association of bullying to schoolyard behavior, where the targets in the past was seen as somebody with some, I hate to use this word, but somebody who's defective in a way. You know, you're small, you're disabled, you're unattractive. In workplaces in Canada, I think because of the dynamic between the minority immigrant population who are coming in with an increasing levels of skills and qualifications and talents, it can be the persons who are bullied because you are attractive, you speak well, you dress well, you are capable, you are competent, and that threatens somebody's sense of superiority. And I'm going to stop here, but I think mental health professionals from the minority demographic, and I hate to call myself a minority because I'm not, we need to turn that conversation around to show racism as the mental disorder that it is. Yeah? Mm-hmm. We are not the ones who are crazy. We are being made crazy by your craziness. So let us invest as many resources in this area. And the final thing I want to say, which I think Philip will speak to, is the prevalence of bullying in places like the public service, municipal government, the city of Toronto, where coincidentally we both work, which happen to have a world of policies on paper that are anti-harassment, so they have all the right policies, all the wrong behaviors, often by the people who are making those policies. And this is something that I hope we can, as part of our education, advocacy, what have you, bring this to the fore in the society that we belong to in a non-confrontational but effective way. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
I have a question. It's so interesting that you say that. Where do you go? It's such a hard thing to go and talk to somebody about.
Absolutely.
The people that you would talk to those, and I just, like what you touched on is so, like, it's in the way that even if you walk into a room, it's the way that people approach you. Like I've just seen like bullying can happen if 3 people are late, but you're late. The approach is when you're late, when they're late, it's like, oh, what happened? Oh yeah, I know, rough work or traffic. Well, why were you late? How come you didn't call me? How come you didn't? And that is a form of bullying, and I don't even think that people realize, or if you're given a task and it's not done perfectly, all of a sudden it's you and it's no longer the team. But when other people do things, it's, well, what did we all do to make that happen? And then when it's you, it's what did you do to not make, and I just find that, it's like, who do you talk to about those things?
I mean, like I said, it's still an uphill battle because we speak of microaggressions, but I don't think, I mean, I'm currently reading this book, Citizen by Claudia Rankin, which I recommend. We speak of microaggressions, and there are policies on the book that define those microaggressions. But another aspect of bullying is that it often happens where there is in the workplace a power imbalance, either because you have a mob of people who don't look like you or who don't like you. Often there is one bad apple who's able to influence the others. And just the imbalance of numbers, it becomes your word against theirs. Or it is the power imbalance of supervisors and managers, which was my guess, who are the ones who are clumping you down. So you begin a complaints process on the book where you're supposed to complain to them about them. So this is the first impossibility. But I think because this thing can so traumatize you and it can so drag you down, one of the first things, I mean, it's difficult to find that peer support. It's all well written down on paper. But if you could tell it to yourself, that's a starting point. And I think just journaling, writing, can begin to purge you of this sort of thing. And the second recourse I found useful is the God of Google. anything you are experiencing, go in there and type those keywords, and then you will find that there are so many social media groups, so many websites, so many people giving their first account, so